Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about my image transfer on the seat, the chair seat for my dining room that I did. But I just want to point out something behind, because when I was looking at the image that you can see, I thought, oh dear, that doesn't look very good. You notice on my mantelpiece, it's full of stuff. Normally I just have a couple of things and my painting on there. But if you can see on the sofa, right there, on that sofa, that's one of the culprits. That's dandelion. And it's like having toddlers in the house again. We've had to move everything like we're being flooded. So that's why the mantelpiece looks so weird. Anyway, that's enough of that frivolity. So this is what I'm here to show you. Okay, this is the seat cover that I did an image transfer on. Now it's made of vinyl, so it's not a rigid surface, and that was that created a bit of a problem for me the first time I did it, and I had a fail the first time, and I realized that I was treating it as though I was sticking this image onto wood, and although I was firming it down, I wasn't giving it enough pressure. So I did it again. Like, if you fail the first time, it's just paint and a bit of paper. Do it again. So I did it again, and this is how it's ended up, and I'm really pleased with it. So what I did was, I'll show you here. Here is the one I'm going to show you today. So this seat is vinyl, brown, disgustingly filthy vinyl, which I cleaned really well, first of all, with this, I'm talking Maison Blanche today, which is why I've got this pinny on. Annie sent me this cleaner and prep, whoops, and it's absolutely fantastic. I normally make my own with vinegar and brown paper, no, not really, with vinegar and water and dish soap, and I don't think I've actually been cleaning things as well as I probably could have been, so that was great. It took off, oh, it was disgusting. So after that was done, I washed it down with some clean water and I let it dry. And then I gave it a coat of their primer, which comes like this and goes on clear. Well, it kind of goes on milky, but it dries clear. And it's really great, actually. It creates a fantastic surface to paint on. I'm not a great one for using primer because I very rarely paint in light colours. But when I have used it, it's always been a bit kind of chalky and a bit kind of hit and miss for me. Anyway, I'm sure lots of people have lots of luck with primers. It's not something I've ever really looked into, to be honest. But I had some of this, so I thought, what the hell, I might as well use it. So I did, so I put a layer of that on the seat, and then when that was dry, I think I left it overnight, only because I did it just before I went to bed. I then painted with a coat of oyster, Maison Blanche oyster. It's their vintage paint, and it's amazing. It's incredibly thick, and I've talked about that before. So that's what I use. Now, the first time I realized, as I said, it failed. And that was because this vinyl has got a little, like, it's got some raised definition in it. And I realized what I had to do was sand the paint before I applied the image. So I've sanded over this with a 400 grit, and now it feels like silk. It's really, really smooth. So what we're going to do is, here's another image. I had this printed at Staples, and I had it printed on 11 by 17, which is one of the two sizes that you can get when you're using laser prints. Okay, now I've done videos before showing you that you can use inkjet, but the clarity of colour isn't as great. But anyway, that's another story. With this, it's fantastic. So as you can see, it's come out beautifully, absolutely beautifully. It looks like it's been painted on there. This is actually a watercolour that I did quite some time ago, and I suddenly remembered that I had it, and so it's perfect. It's just absolutely perfect for what I was looking for. So this is the image. Now obviously it didn't come all raggedy from the printer, because the other thing that you should do when you're doing image transfer is to get rid of as much white paper as you can, unless you are covering the whole area with your image, then you're fine. But I had quite a lot of white paper around this. Now if I stuck that on here, I would end up with the image of white paper, and I don't want that. So it's best to tear it. You can cut around if you don't feel happy about tearing, but I like to tear because I like the way the paper separates a little bit. So you tear it towards you, you pull it towards you. Should have left a bit to show you, like that. You pull it towards you and it gives a rough area, which is fine. You're always going to see that there's an image has been transferred onto whatever you're transferring onto, because you're creating another layer. So it doesn't matter how much of the backing paper you take off, there's always going to be a very, very fine layer of ink. So I decided that instead of using Mod Podge or one of the other image transfer gels that I've used before, I decided I was going to use this primer. Okay? Because, I don't know, it just suddenly came to me in the middle of the night. Why not? So what I did, or what I do, is I get some of the primer on a brush and paint it on all over, making sure that I cover every last bit. Okay, all over the edges, even the raggedy edges, because we want it all to stick down perfectly. Okay, now you can't kind of dilly-dally with this, because this is obviously, I'm putting some moisture on this paper, and it is going to have a reaction, and the reaction will be that it will start to buckle and bend, and I don't want that to be a thing. So make sure you put enough on. It's a bit nerve-wracking doing this, actually. Hope it doesn't fail. Okay, so that is all now covered. And now going to lay it down. Gosh, I hope I've done it in the same place as the other one. Didn't think of that, did I? Hang on. Okay. Yeah, that's probably okay. And then smooth it out from the middle, working out. Okay. Now, what I did the first time when it failed, now I can see that I haven't got enough under there, so I'm just going to put some more. Because this is not rigid, I wasn't giving it enough oomph. So I have to go in and kind of pounce on this and really, really make sure it's sticking. Really, really press it down hard. And if there doesn't seem to be enough, you can just lift it. And actually I can see that the image is already transferring. Okay, I'm really giving it some welly here. Welly. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? Just crazy English woman. Okay. Bit more down here, and also it doesn't matter if it goes on the area around it, which it will, because I will be painting around it again once it's transferred. because I'm going to want to blend the paint in with the image if I can, as much as I can. Okay. Okay, so while that's doing that, just want to talk to you about this primer because it is pretty amazing. I'm just going to get up the spec sheet that Annie sent me. Where is it? Okay. It says, the primer is a revolutionary water-based primer for interior or exterior use that can minimize bleed through. And it doesn't say that it actually gets rid of it altogether. Minimize bleed through of wood tannins and create a barrier for furniture that may have been exposed to nicotine and smoke, soot stains, water rings, coffee and tea stains, saline stains, that's the word, isn't it, etc. It locks in unpleasant smells too. Now that's something that people keep asking all the time. Also, when you use it on furniture, it gives a nice, even surface for you to then apply your paint. It says here, furniture treated with clear furniture primer will have less instance of sheen irregularities in final paint finishing. So what it's doing, it's creating an even surface for you to put your paint on. When it's uneven and the light catches it, that's when you get sometimes an uneven sheen. So that's another thing to note. Okay, so the most exciting part of this video though is this. Where are we? Here we go. I invented a colour with Maison Blanche paint, and here it is. And I used it with this image on my chair, and it looks fantastic. The chair's in the other room, so I'll show you a photograph of that later on. But Annie thinks it's lovely too, the owner. She thinks it's a great colour, and we have called it Julie's Dreamy Blue because I just think it's such a dreamy colour. It's a mixture of kind of lavender and periwinkle and greys, and it's beautiful. It's my kind of colour, so I love it. So what Annie has offered is that for every purchase you make of Maison Blanche products, if you use the code Julie Special, and I'll put it in the link so you know what it is, if you use that code when you place an order, you will get a tester of this paint colour. How amazing is that? I'm so excited. I'm kind of on the paint map now. So then you can try it and see if you like it, and then maybe we can have it added to their repertoire. I don't know. I didn't like to ask that, but you never know. Anyway, you'll get a sample pot of it and you can see it, and then we can all pressure her to add it to her range. So this, going back to the primer, this is a bit of a cure for all product actually, because not only is it a primer, but it does successfully transfer images to substrates. Not only that, I did some decoupage with it too. I decoupaged some tissue paper, and I'm going to do another video on that because I don't want to kind of confuse everybody. Oh, I'll look at you again now. I'll do another video on that, but it actually works for that too. So you've got 3 products in one here, and I like that. You know me, I like to find a product that will work for lots of things. So if you want to buy that, or if you want to buy some of their paint, their website is fantastic. And Annie will also send you a free colour card with your purchase. So I'm going to have to leave this here for a minute, but I just want to show you again what I'm hoping that this one will look like. And so this, after I took all the white paper off, I then painted some more oyster around to kind of, oh, actually what I did also was I sanded the edges. I sanded the edges so that the little bit of raised paper, just that one layer of ink, one layer of paper, made a difference, and you could feel it. So I sanded it very, very carefully around the edges, and then I painted some more oyster around it to blend it all in. And then when that was fully dry, I think I left it a couple of days. I probably didn't. I left it a day, not long enough probably. I then top coated it with, I was going to use hemp oil. And then I thought, no, that's probably not a good idea. I'm not going to let any of the men in my house sit on this seat anyway. They're all out, so they don't know I'm saying that. I actually used some Minwax polyacrylic over the top. It's had one coat, and I will give it another coat. So this is part one of the videos, because I'm going to come back. I actually could start removing this now, because I know that it's transferred. I can see, I can tell, because it's almost dry. But I'm going to leave it just a little bit longer because I don't want this to be a fail. So that's part one, and then I'll probably come back tomorrow with part deux, as we're talking Maison Blanche, with a little bit of French. So that's it. Okay, I'm getting silly now. Speak to you soon. Bye.